At the baby shower, I was seated by the bathroom, far from the main table. "You're at table 7, the event coordinator whispered, almost embarrassed, handing me a tiny folded card that read, "Additional guest." Additional guest. I blinked, looked around the crowded room. Streamers and pastel balloons hung from the ceiling, glittery banners spelling out, "Welcome baby," across every wall. There were 8 tables, 7 clustered in a semicircle around the lavish cake table and the throne-like mother-to-be's chair, and one, shoved into the corner, near the kitchen hallway and right outside the restroom. That one was mine. I walked toward it, heels clicking softly against the floor, and sat down on the creaky metal chair draped in a too small satin cover. From here, I could smell bleach and air freshener. Every few minutes, the bathroom door swung open behind me, gusts of cheap floral spray hitting me in the face. I clenched my jaw and glanced toward the main table, where the immediate family was already seated. There was Mom and Dad, Aunt Teresa, my cousin Lila, and in the chair that, according to the place cards I helped design, was supposed to be mine, sat Daniel, my sister's brand new husband of 6 months. I stared, confused for a moment, then caught my mom's eye. She smiled, lifted her plastic flute of mimosa, and mouthed, "He's part of the family now." I didn't reply. I just looked back down at the chair tag in my hand. Additional guest. I'd spent 3 days baking cookies for the favor bags, helped design the invites, organized the cake order. And I'd brought a gift, a discreet box now tucked beneath the cake table, with a check for $6,000 inside. I told myself it was a loving gesture, a way to support my sister's growing family. But now, something inside me snapped. I stood up, slowly, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the cake table. Nobody looked up. Nobody noticed. I slid the box further underneath, where it couldn't be seen, and walked to the exit. As I pushed open the door, the baby shower music faded behind me. 1 hour later, I got the voicemail. It was my sister. "Hey, where is your gift? Everyone's asking. You didn't even say goodbye." Kind of rude, honestly. I replied without emotion. Just one text. Already taken care of. By 6:43 p.m., my father had called me 11 times. "You've always been extra, you know. Overly sensitive," my mom once told me. "It's just a seat. Why are you making it about you?" That was 2 years ago, when I first started realizing my place in this family was never really a place. I was the one who always showed up, always contributed, always offered to help. But somehow, I was never in. Just around. It started small. Back when we were kids, Claire, my younger sister by 4 years, was always the golden one. She got her first car from Dad at 16. I took the bus until I was 23. When I asked why, Mom simply said, "You're responsible." "She's not. She needs more support." That line followed me into adulthood. When Claire dropped out of college for the second time, I helped her apply for massage therapy school, paid the application fee, helped write her essay. She dropped out of that, too. When her first marriage ended, after her ex drained her credit and moved out with her best friend, I was the one who picked her up at 2 a.m. with her suitcase and tears. She stayed with me for 4 months rent-free. Never once said thank you. Still, I helped. The pregnancy came fast. Claire and Daniel had been together maybe 6 months. The wedding was a blur, small courthouse event with a family dinner after. I paid for that dinner. No one asked me to, but Claire called me a saint for offering. That was one of the only times she actually complimented me in public. I remember thinking maybe things were changing. They weren't. Planning the baby shower was supposed to be our thing. She called me every other day in the months leading up, asking for help with the registry, decorations, the theme. Boho Safari, in case you're wondering. Earth tones and fake greenery everywhere. I offered to host it at my house. Mom vetoed that immediately. "We already booked the venue," she said, even though I knew Claire hadn't. Still, I showed up to planning meetings, gave input, designed the invitations myself. I offered to split the cost of catering with Mom and Dad, and when they hesitated, I just paid the deposit myself. No drama. I didn't expect thanks. But I didn't expect to be seated by the bathroom, either. That detail haunted me more than it should have. I kept going over the seating chart in my head. There had been a list. Claire and I had gone over it together. I was supposed to sit at table 1. Mom, Dad, Aunt Teresa, Claire's best friend Sam, and me. Daniel didn't even like big social events. He said so at dinner the week before. And yet there he was, taking my place. sitting beside my mother like he'd always been part of our lineage. Laughing, raising a glass during the toasts, his hand on Claire's belly like a proud father in a Hallmark ad. I'd never seen my mom look at me the way she looked at him that day. That smile, proud, affectionate, soft. I don't think she smiled at me like that since I graduated college. Even then, she didn't come. She was sick that day. Dad stayed home with her. Claire showed up late, stayed for 20 minutes, and left before I gave my speech. Said the auditorium lighting gave her migraines. I remember watching her walk out in those heels I helped her buy, thinking, why do I keep doing this? And yet, I kept doing it. Until the baby shower. That day, I felt something break. Not loudly, quietly, like the sound of a thread snapping under pressure. And the gift? The one everyone kept calling about? It wasn't just some rattle and blanket. It was a check. $6,000. Meant to cover the first 6 months of expenses. Diapers, wipes, formula, clothes, whatever the baby needed. Claire hadn't asked for it. But she had hinted, oh, so many times, that things were tight. Now that Daniel had lost his contract job. Mom had chimed in too. It's hard starting out. If only Claire had some cushion to help with the baby. So I cashed out a short-term CD I'd been saving. My vacation fund. The one I was going to use for a trip to Italy next year. Just for once, I told myself I wanted to do something for me. Instead, I did what I always do. I put them first. And they put me by the bathroom. After I walked out, I turned off my phone. I didn't want to see the notifications. But part of me also knew they'd come. The guilt would be swift, aggressive, loud. It started with a voicemail. Claire, where is your gift? Everyone's asking. You didn't even say goodbye. Kind of rude, honestly. Then Mom. Mom, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but this little stunt? It's not cute. Your sister is crying. Then, one after the other. 6 missed calls from Dad. 3 from Daniel. A text from Aunt Teresa. Honey, maybe you can explain what's going on? I didn't respond to any of them. Except one. To Claire, I simply wrote, already taken care of. That was all. Then at 6:43 p.m., the phone rang again. Dad. 11 times. He didn't leave a message until the 12th. Call me. Now. But I didn't. I watched the phone vibrate across the counter, slowly, then stop. I let it fall quiet. And I stood in my kitchen, still wearing my dress, staring at the empty gift table I'd envisioned for months, and thought, maybe this time, I'm done. The next day, I didn't leave the house. I didn't check my voicemail either. But I knew they hadn't stopped. Every time I passed by my phone on the counter, it lit up with another call or message. I turned it face down. It wasn't until Monday afternoon that I finally got a knock on my apartment door. Not a text, not a call, a knock. And I knew. I just knew it was Mom. When I opened the door, there she was, standing like she owned the place. Hair done, makeup perfect, a tight smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. She didn't wait to be invited in. I've been calling, she said, walking past me into the living room like it was still 2008 and I was a teenager she could ground. I know, I said quietly, closing the door behind her. She turned on her heel, hands on her hips. What exactly was that little performance at the shower? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was for Claire? For all of us. I said nothing. She cried for hours. Mom continued. Your father was furious. Daniel was completely blindsided. And frankly, so was I. I finally looked up. Blindsided? You seated me by the bathroom, Mom. She blinked, like she didn't understand the word. It was the only seat left. No, it wasn't, I said, crossing my arms. You put Daniel in my chair. The one I picked when we made the chart. The one labeled immediate family. He is immediate family now, she snapped. He's her husband. That's how these things work. Why are you so dramatic about a chair? I laughed, not loudly, just bitterly. It's not about the chair. It's about every single time I've been told I'm not really one of you unless I'm useful. Mom rolled her eyes. Oh God, not this again. Yes, this again, I said, my voice rising. Let's go through it, shall we? I paid for Claire's moving truck when Brandon left. I paid for her divorce lawyer consultation. I've paid for groceries, gas, her baby registry gifts. I paid for your hotel room during the wedding. I paid $6,000 for that honeymoon, the one you all kept acting like I owed her. You offered. I always offer, I snapped. Because I know no one else will. Mom folded her arms and narrowed her eyes. You're being selfish. I stared at her, stunned. Selfish? Yes. This behavior, this silent treatment, running out without a word, making everything about you. That's not how family behaves. I stepped back, breathing hard. Family, I said slowly, doesn't treat you like a utility. Family doesn't take your money, your help, your time, and then discard you when you're not convenient. She didn't answer. You called me selfish, I repeated. You all laughed behind my back when I paid for things you couldn't afford. Remember the Christmas where I covered everyone's presents? And Claire joked I must have gotten a raise from being Mom's lapdog. I heard her. You didn't even correct her. Mom's face paled slightly, but her tone hardened. We didn't ask you to do all that. No, you expected me to. Big difference. There was silence. Then she said the line that finally broke something in me. You should have been grateful to be invited at all. Claire didn't even want to include you at first. I stared at her. I had no words. No breath. Just silence. Then, slowly, I nodded. Got it. I walked to the side table, pulled out a folder, and handed her a single sheet of paper. What's this? She asked. A copy of the check I left under the cake table. I said. You can tell Claire it was never cashed. I canceled it the next morning. Her eyes went wide. You what? I stopped payment. The bank said no problem, since it hadn't been deposited yet. You can tell her whatever you want. That it got lost. That it was void. Or, maybe you can tell her the truth. Mom stood there stunned. Then, slowly, her mouth curled. She's going to be furious. I'm counting on it, I said. Let her call me. Let her scream. I won't be answering. You're really doing this? She asked, now sounding like she couldn't believe it. Cutting off your family over a chair? No, I said firmly. I'm cutting off my family because it's the 100th chair. Because I'm done being the one who shows up, supports everyone, and still ends up excluded. For the first time, Mom looked shaken. Her composure cracked just slightly. What will people think? They'll think what you tell them. That I'm difficult, emotional, ungrateful, that I embarrassed you. I grabbed the door and opened it. But I don't care anymore. She stared at me, and for a brief second, I saw something real in her eyes. Not guilt exactly, but fear. The fear that maybe this time, I wasn't bluffing. Tell Dad I won't be at Thanksgiving, I said. You always carve the turkey, she whispered. Not this year, I replied. She stepped past me and paused in the hallway. Claire's going to call. She won't let this go. I know, I said, and I won't answer. Then I shut the door, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't collapse on the couch in guilt. I didn't wonder if I'd gone too far. I felt clear, because for once, I had chosen myself. The first 3 days were quiet. Too quiet. No voicemails. No texts. No middle-of-the-night calls from Dad. No angry all-caps messages from Claire demanding explanations. Just silence. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or disturbed. Part of me had expected another dramatic explosion. Part of me had prepared for it. Mentally rehearsed what I'd say when she screamed, when she cried, when she threatened to cut me off forever, like she was the one walking away. But the silence said something more dangerous. They weren't ready to fight. They were regrouping, and I was okay with that. For the first time in years, I woke up without the buzzing anxiety of being needed. No new lists, no errands, no family events to organize. I made coffee in silence, read my book, and let my mind stop racing. It was strange, peaceful, almost unnerving. That Thursday, I got a text from Daniel. Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't know she changed the seating chart. She told me the table assignment was your idea. I stared at the message, heart beating harder than I wanted it to. Then another text, a minute later. Daniel, I should have said something at the shower. I saw where you were seated and knew it was wrong. I just didn't know how to bring it up without making it worse. And finally, Daniel, I found the check under the cake table. Claire thought someone had stolen it. I didn't tell her what I saw. Just put it in the drawer. Thought you should know. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. But for a moment, I just sat on the couch and let myself feel something I hadn't allowed in a long time. Seen. I didn't trust Daniel, not fully. He'd watched me be humiliated and said nothing. But he also didn't know me loyalty. And yet, he reached out. That meant something. A few hours later, the silence shattered. Claire called. I let it ring. Then the voicemail came. You're unbelievable. Mom told me what you did. You canceled the check? After everything I've done for you? After all I went through during this pregnancy, the least you could have done was help a little. You don't get to abandon your family when things get hard. You don't get to be the victim when you're the one causing pain. Grow up. I listened to the whole thing with a blank face, then deleted it. That evening, I got the call I was waiting for. Dad. He rarely called directly. Usually he let Mom do the talking. But now, his name flashed across my screen. I answered. Hello. A pause. Then, we're not sure what's gotten into you. I exhaled slowly. Hi, Dad. I mean it, he continued. You left a baby shower. You humiliated your sister. And now everyone's talking. Everyone who? I asked calmly. He paused again. Your aunts. Your cousins. Claire's friends. You think gossip doesn't get around? Let them talk, I said. I'm not responsible for their expectations. You're part of this family, he snapped. You don't get to just walk away. I almost laughed. You're right. I don't get to. I chose to. You're punishing us, he said, as if I'd slapped him. No, I said. I'm finally protecting myself. He didn't respond. So I asked, do you remember what Mom said to me? That I should be grateful to be included at all? That Claire didn't even want me invited? Silence. I heard that. I said. I heard it. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. More silence. Then, finally, Dad's voice, quiet. She didn't mean it like that. Yes, I said. She did. The line went dead. 2 days later, a message popped up in our extended family group chat. It was from Aunt Teresa. Aunt Teresa. Just wanted to say, I saw where you were seated at the baby shower. I thought it was a mistake. I'm sorry I didn't say anything. It wasn't right. She didn't elaborate. No one else chimed in. But I noticed something interesting in the days that followed. Several relatives who hadn't reached out in years sent me little messages. Casual ones. Photos from their kids. A funny meme. A shared memory from high school. They didn't say it outright. But I could tell. They knew. By the end of the week, I had blocked Claire's number. It felt final, but necessary. Her texts were escalating. Guilt, then rage, then passive-aggressive silence. I didn't need it. Instead, I poured myself into the life I'd always put on pause. I called my old friend Melissa and said yes to a weekend trip we'd talked about for years. I signed up for that creative writing class I always skipped because family might need me that weekend. I started researching that Italy trip again. I gave myself permission to be a person, not a backup wallet. Not a silent supporter. Not the fixer. Just me. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, I got one last message. This time, from Daniel. Daniel. She found the canceled check. She went ballistic. Accused me of siding with you. I told her I didn't care, that what she did was cruel. I think we're separating. I just wanted to say, thank you. For the honeymoon. And for opening my eyes. I put the phone down and stared out the window for a long while. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel spiteful. I just felt right. For the first time in years, the weight was gone. No invisible leash pulling me back. No buzzing anxiety waiting for the next favor. Just silence. But this time, it was peace. It's been 3 months. 3 long, quiet, restorative months. The kind where the silence doesn't suffocate, it heals. I've learned a lot in that time. About myself. About what I thought was family. And about what love looks like when it's real, not conditional. For the first few weeks, I kept waiting for guilt to come knocking. It didn't. No shame. No sleepless nights wondering if I was being too harsh. No urge to fix things. Just relief. I didn't realize how much of my life had been dictated by guilt. How many of my decisions were rooted in fear of being excluded, rejected, seen as the problem child. But once you stop trying to earn love that was never offered freely, you start to feel something else. Peace. These days, my phone is quieter. My calendar isn't filled with family obligations. I see the people who make space for me, not just when they need something, but because they genuinely enjoy my presence. Friends, colleagues, a cousin I reconnected with over coffee last week. People who ask how I am and actually wait for the answer. I'm not angry anymore. Not even at Claire. I'm just done. And that's not bitterness. That's clarity. Claire still hasn't apologized. I didn't expect her to. Maybe she never will. That's her journey. Mom hasn't called again since that day in my apartment. Dad sent me a card last week and signed just a Hallmark template about family always finding its way back. I didn't respond. Not because I'm punishing them, but because the version of me they knew, the version they depended on, doesn't exist anymore. The quiet giver. The helpful one. The seat filler. That version of me finally stood up and walked away. Sometimes I think back to the baby shower. To that folding chair near the bathroom. To the way my name looked on that little card, additional guest. And you know what? It was accurate. I was additional, tolerated, not included, just expected to show up, smile, and fund the show. They never saw me as essential. But I do now. I'm no one's backup. I'm no one's silent sponsor. I am not a guest in my own story. I don't regret leaving that gift under the cake table. I don't regret canceling the check. I don't regret the 11 missed calls. Because walking out of that room was the moment I walked into myself. And now, I live here, in my own life, on my own terms. No apologies, no explanations, just freedom.